So I'm Jillian. I'm currently in law school, and just to kind of give you guys a background, I'm pursuing environmental law with an urban focus. So my goal and my passion is to work for low-income minority areas who are usually the most severely impacted by a lot of environmental decisions. Okay, so the title is Agency Environmental Decision Making, and just to kind of give you guys a background, I wanted to just first say what is an agency. So agencies are considered nowadays by many a fourth branch of our government, outside of the judicial, legislative, and executive. They cover vast areas and employ a lot of US citizens. So when it first was started, to just give you a little bit of a background, it started with our first Congress, President George Washington. He appointed and created the Department of War, State, and Treasury. And out of that, you kind of will know about the post office came out of that, and certain other areas that were necessary to implement. After that, in the late 1880s, the Interstate Commerce Act was enacted by Congress, and that created the first modern regulatory agency, and they controlled more railroads, which was really dominant at the time. And then from there, finally, in 1946, the Congress passed the Administrative Procedure Act. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's basically the constitutional groundwork for what agencies do, how people can hold them accountable, and the rules and regulations they have to abide by. So that's kind of the background of what is an agency. And where my presentation begins is with Section 553 under the APA, which under B, it's under rulemaking. So just I don't want to go too far, but under rulemaking, there's rules and orders. So when an agency, when the agency establishes an order, it's more about enforcement actions and issuing permits. Now when they issue a rule, and this is my presentation, it's more about future effect that involves law and policy. So under the APA, which regulates the agency, under B, they have the mandate to create a general notice. A proposed rule shall be published in the Federal Register. So for the two big things and the takeaways from my presentation, first part is the notice. And so just to kind of give you a feel, whenever they do these actions that we have all addressed, or well, you have all addressed earlier today, where's this power plant going to go? How can we lease away this oil and gas for this neighborhood or this public lands? All of these are agency actions that have to then publish their proposed rules in the Federal Register. So the goal from this and the two takeaways is, how do you guys get involved? How does the public have to respond, or how can they respond? So with the notice, they have the federalregistrar.gov, and you can go on this website, it's very user-friendly, and you can look at every single proposed notice they are making today. And you can read about it, you can learn about it, you can see this is happening in my community, this is what's going on. Just yesterday, I looked, there's 134 notices, 11 proposed rules, and 24 rules. Total of 478 pages. So it's a huge document because they actually have to put every single one in, and they want to make it so every single person can have a voice and respond to these issues. And that goes to my second point. So under the APA 553C, it states, the agency shall give interested persons an opportunity to participate in the rulemaking. And this is something that I was a tad frustrated with because I learned more about it in law school. And for me and my professor, when we were going back and forth, we were discussing how do we get the public engaged. The agency has this mandate where when they say, like a current issue I'm working on, a landfill that has pollutants, PCBs, I don't know if you're aware, which are dangerous and hazardous to a local community, when they decided to cap some of the landfill waste into a huge hill next to a creek, you know, a community that is the Edison neighborhood, this is in Michigan actually, they are the most populous, the most diverse in the city. They can actually respond to this. They can actually say, you know what? Instead of spending only $50 million to move it into a hill, you should get rid of all of this waste. We don't want this in our community. We don't want the river or the creek to be impacted and contaminated because you guys are taking a shortcut. So, under that, they have created, the government has created Regulations.gov. Now, this is, I think, a huge tool that I hope you guys can take away, because when you go on Regulations.gov, it lists all these proposed rules, kind of like the Federal Registrar, and when you click on one, it has a lot of filters, so you can then learn more about the issue. Well, let's just say you want to know about Denver. You don't want to read all of them. So you can type in Denver, you can type in areas. They have between aerospace, agriculture and environmental, public lands, education, food and safety, and housing. So these are just some of the filters that you can narrow down, find out what's happening in your neighborhood, and when you find one that's semi-interesting, you click on it, and they actually provide the background information, a summary on it, how you can comment, and more information to make you informed. Now, I said comment because that's the second takeaway. So a lot of people in the agency field refer to these two prongs of the 553 as notice and comment. So first, they have to notify the public, and that's by posting in the Federal Registrar and going on Regulations.gov, which also has all of the proposed actions. Then they have to have an opportunity for you guys to actually comment. So when you go on Regulations.gov, when you find out that this power plant is now going to be moved to your backyard, you can go on there. They have a little blue button that says comment now. You can click it, and then the agency has to consider what you have to say. They have to take into account that you are now feeling that your kids who are experiencing asthma, or there's something going on in the river, or you have these weird smells, that actually matters. And so for what I'm learning as a lawyer is if we have, people in the communities that comment and respond to these agency actions, that goes into an administrative record. If the agency doesn't do a good job and make a rational decision with their agency action, if they ignore what you have to say, you now have standing to petition to stop them, to make them reconsider. And then that actually gives certain groups like Earth Justice and ACLU to look to these communities and say, hey, wow, I saw this comment, I think there's something going on here, and you can actually have a really impactful voice in our government today. So thank you so much.